With a region this big, bus service goes everywhere, right? Well, you may actually be surprised to learn that some counties, namely Wayne and Oakland, actually have the ability to opt out of transit service, bus service, and that requires further advocacy on behalf of those communities. So here to talk about transit advocacy in Rochester Hills, Tom and Scott from the newly created Rochester Riders group. Thanks for joining us on Tapping into Transit, you guys.
Thanks for having me here.
Great. Glad we could finally do this. So first question to Tom and then Scott. Can you guys speak about, I know your group is focused primarily on service in the Rochester Hills area. Can you speak on the services that are currently available and why that may be insufficient?
So currently in Rochester and Rochester Hills, the only game in town, the main transit provider, is OPC, the Older Persons Commission. That is what we call a paratransit service. It serves people over the age of 60 and people of any age that have a disability that they can demonstrate that they have. It serves locations in Rochester, Rochester Hills, and Oakland Township, as well as 2 locations that theoretically allow you to access the rest of the SMART network, namely Oakland University and Troy Beaumont. This is a service that requires 48 hours advanced reservation. It only runs during certain times of day and doesn't really have much time on Sundays for service. So that is basically the only system. The cities of Rochester and Rochester Hills opt out of SMART, as you can see on the map there. There's no SMART routes that go through town. There's some that get close, but nothing that takes you to inside the city limits.
And Scott, why would you see this as insufficient? I mean, looking at this current map, it's a pretty big, what can say intentional gap in service.
Yeah, it's we call it the donut hole. We're the communities surrounding Rochester Hills and Rochester are served by SMART. OPC does do a great job within their territory and with the resources that they have, but they have their limitations. And for people who need to go outside of their service area, or for people that are outside of the age ranges or the times that they serve, there's simply no other option.
And so there, it seems like even though SMART serves the communities around, like you've said, there's no other option. What do you feel what does your group feel, Scott, to then Tom, what does Rochester Riders feel needs to be added here? What are we advocating for?
So Rochester Riders would love to see SMART extended into Rochester Hills, Rochester fixed route service, connector service, and ADA service. It would connect Rochester and Rochester Hills with downtown Detroit, with airport sports venues, the Detroit Zoo, and everywhere else that SMART currently serves. It would offer better transit options, more complete transit options for senior citizens and people with disabilities.
I would just so, and another thing that I think we could add on to that is, SMART is pioneering or working on introducing what's called microtransit. So that is basically what we call a dial-a-ride service that sort of doesn't have a fixed route. You call it and it picks you up within 60 minutes of your call. Some communities like Farmington and Farmington Hills already have this. And that's something that SMART wants to introduce in more parts of its system. That is a way to kind of solve the last mile problem, which in a sort of sprawled out suburban area like some parts of Rochester Hills, that would be very useful to people. You can also sort of solve the last mile problem by introducing some park and ride lots where people can drive to the bus stop and then start riding. That's actually how me and Scott have used the SMART system. And so SMART has lots and lots of park and ride lots and certain park and ride routes all over. So those are also things that they could introduce in Rochester Hills that people would definitely use.
So fixed route ADA services to expand into the Rochester region, connect the region to downtown Detroit and already existing smart routes. Seems like kind of the clear goal here for Rochester Riders. Can you speak just very briefly, maybe Tom and then Scott, about Rochester Riders? How did this group come about, and what action steps are you guys taking in the coming months or so to reach that goal? Very excited, Tom. You've been, around True for a minute here, and we love your voice. So we're excited that you are taking the step out into your own community and getting the word out about transit and expanding service.
Thank you, Andre. Yes, Rochester Riders. We started last year. Feels like a long time ago, but it really wasn't. We we started. It was kind of an effort between me and my friend Corey, who actually sort of bravely went before Rochester Hills City Council at one point and sort of brought up the issue of transit, and that sort of inspired me and inspired some other people as well to sort of revisit this issue of transit in Rochester Hills. With all the developments that are going on in the world of Metro Detroit Transit, we feel like it's a good time to sort of launch a campaign and launch an organization that's really dedicated to this. So that's kind of how it started, and we've just been kind of growing and bringing more people on since then.
Yeah, and I would say for folks that want to get involved, absolutely get involved with Rochester Riders. We're coordinating our efforts. And then outside of that, you can get involved with your local government officials, like your city council members, attend meetings. You can just email them too and let them know that you support transit and you want to see transit in your community. There's some anti-transit voices out there. We need to make sure that pro-transit voices are represented in our local city government.
And definitely, I mean, I think people that watch the show or are familiar with our work definitely know the many benefits a region can achieve by having a robust or at least decently robust transit system. So rochesterriders.org, facebook.com/Rochester Riders, plug in with these awesome young advocates, getting the word out in their community. I know that we were discussing before, is there a public meeting, you guys, or some kind of hearing coming up that you guys are pushing people to get out to?
So there is a in Rochester Hills, the city's developing what's called a transportation master plan. So they'll be sort of discussing, basically it's like a 10-year plan for transportation in the city. There's going to be a joint meeting between the city council and the planning commission on February 1st, and that is a really good opportunity that's coming up real soon for people to get out there and express to the city council, express to the planning commission that, we need to include public transportation as part of the plan. It maybe we're not, maybe we're open to different options about how it looks like, but we want to see it. One thing that people should know is that, in order for the cities of Rochester or Rochester Hills or any city in Oakland County or Wayne County that opts out of SMART, for them to opt in, the city council has to decide whether to authorize a vote. And then people will be able to decide, people will be able to vote actually on whether they get service or not. So our campaign is basically involved in two steps. The first step is getting city council to actually give citizens the chance to vote on this. And then the second step would be for us to sort of get out the vote efforts to make that vote a yes. So at this point, it's really important for people that live in Rochester Hills, or if you don't live there, if you work there, or if you come to shop in the area. I mean, transit is great for tourism. That's one thing that that's one piece of ammo you could use to kind of get the point across. So I think that writing and getting involved and letting the city council know that you support transit and that other people support transit in Rochester Hills, that's really important. Mm-hmm. So February 1st, save the date, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Because we need to have city council needs to decide on whether or not to get that allow that vote to happen to expand service. So it's about getting in front of city council ahead of time to let them know that we have pro-transit voters out there. Correct? Right. Awesome.
It may be that, we just want the chance to at least vote on this. That's the bare minimum for us.
Right.
So.
Right. Be able to get the word out and get, just like True is, be able to push transit, in the political sphere where we can. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. RochesterRiders.com.org, Facebook.com/Rochester Riders. Any final thoughts for our viewers? Tom and Scott, thanks again for joining us, you guys.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, your next opportunity, February 1st at 7 p.m., Rochester Hills Joint Planning Commission and Rochester Riders. We meet every Sunday at 6 p.m.
And I'm sure you can grab more details at the sites below. These guys are both very personable, very approachable. So, get in contact with them. Again, one last time, thank you guys for joining us on this week's Tapping into Transit. As always, this work is supported by our True members and all of the wonderful people in our True community. So if you've not yet already, go to DetroitTransit.org, become a member of True, help us keep producing this awesome show, Tapping into Transit, and to link up with advocates in our area to make transit happen in areas where it needs to. Scott, Tom, thanks so much again, you guys. It's been Tapping into Transit, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
This has been awesome.